If you checked out the shooting tips lesson in our basic camera course, you know that holding your camera steady is essential for producing professional looking footage. Nothing screams amateur more than shaky shots. Francisco goes over some basic ways to keep your camera steady when you're holding your camera with your own hands. In a perfect world, you would hand hold your camera and learn to keep it as steady as a rock. We generally don't like a tripod because it's a cumbersome burden and it limits the fluidity of your shooting. However, there are some times when you're going to really need a tripod. So when should you use a tripod? When you're shooting things that don't move, like buildings or paintings on the wall of a museum. In these cases, a tripod is essential. Also, there may be times when you will be called upon to do a formal sit-down interview with someone. Again, here is where you're going to need a tripod. In this lesson, we're going to look at tripods and monopods and the pros and cons of using each. This is a tripod, and like the name suggests, it has 3 legs. They can fold up to be made more portable and usually come with a carrying case. Like most equipment, these can be very basic and inexpensive or have all the bells and whistles for a lot more money. Some things to look for in a good tripod are stability, quick release, height, weight, or compactness. Stability is an obvious but important one. This really is dependent on how heavy your camera is. A lot of tripods will be rated to hold a certain weight. You certainly don't want to risk having your lovely camera fall, so you want to be sure that you check that out. All tripods have some sort of locking mechanism for their telescoping legs. Needless to say, you always want to check and double check that these are completely locked before attaching your camera to it. This brings me to the quick release functionality of the tripod. The quick release is a lever next to where your camera is attached that allows you to remove it from the tripod quickly, in case you need to. Some release more quickly and easily than others, so you want to be aware of that. This is also usually the lever that you use to lock your camera on top of the tripod. Like the locking mechanism of the telescoping legs, it's very, very important that you're sure that your camera is securely attached before you let go. Sadly, I've seen too many cameras slide right off and smash on the ground because this wasn't thoroughly locked. So check and double check that. You also want to be sure that your tripod will extend to the height that you need. Check the manufacturer's specs to see how far the legs will extend. The last thing to keep in mind when shopping for a tripod is its weight and portability. Some of these things can be really heavy, which can be a good thing if you need to support a heavy camera. If you have a lightweight handycam, a heavy tripod is not only overkill, but it'll be a real pain to lug around with you. Which brings us to compactness and portability. This simply depends on what kind of shooting you intend to do. Are you going to need to be fairly mobile? Do you need to stick your tripod into a backpack, or will you be able to transport your gear with your car? Decide how you're going to use your tripod before buying one. This weight and portability issue is one of the downsides to using a tripod for many filmmakers. It all comes back to what and how you are shooting. If you're shooting an independent film and have a small crew, no problem. But if you shoot documentaries with limited or no help, you'll go crazy moving that thing around and trying to set it up all the time. It's also worth mentioning that some tripods have a level built into the head that lets you know your camera is aligned properly. This helps you avoid the dreaded slightly tilted horizon shot where everything is slightly askew. If you've started shopping for tripods, you may have noticed that the prices vary widely from $30 all the way up to as much as $15,000. Why such a difference in price? Well, part of the expense has to do with the type of head that the tripod has. Less expensive tripods will have a very basic type of head, which is best used for locked-off shots. A ball-type head lets you put the camera at different angles, but is still better used for locked-off shots. The head has 2 main parts, the ball end, which attaches to the camera, and the socket end, which attaches to the tripod. These are used when a free-flow movement of the camera is needed. This is also sometimes called a fluid head and is best for moving shots or panning. Depending on how good it is, it can really add to the expense of the tripod. So what if you want some external stabilization but don't want the hassle of setting up and dragging around a heavy tripod? Then the monopod is the answer for you. Like its name implies, it only has 1 leg instead of 3. You'll want to look at the same qualities in the monopod as the tripod. How much weight will it support? How easy is it to attach and unattach from your camera? How high does it fully extend? And how heavy and portable is it? The obvious advantage that a monopod has over the tripod is that it's fairly easy to move around. You can even keep the camera attached and move it quite handily to a new location. It's lighter weight, compact, and travels very easily. They usually have telescoping capability, much like the tripod, where you can adjust the height. You can even use it to get that cool overhead shot where you're shooting in a crowd. Sounds great, so what's the downside of a monopod? Well, if you have a huge 50-pound camera, then this won't work so well. And because it only has one leg, you still have to keep it steady to avoid unintended movement, though it still has less if you're hand holding it. And you really have to be careful to keep the camera level when you're shooting anything that has straight lines or horizon to avoid that sinking of the Titanic look. Overall, the Monopod is a good in-between solution for the filmmaker on the go. It can give you more stability when shooting, but isn't as cumbersome as a tripod. Just keep all these variables in mind when shopping for a tripod or monopod, and you'll be in great shape.
To view hundreds more video lessons like this, visit NYVS.com. Learn basic through advanced film and video making techniques and start making amazing videos today.